And while President Biden has introduced infrastructure reform, it is not expected to be voted on at least for months. So what will happen in the meantime? Many criminal justice advocates hope the president actually takes executive action to reduce prison populations nationwide, believing that President Trump took his action and now it's his turn. Our Joe St. George reports on what the president can actually change without votes in Congress.
Understanding prison sentencing and criminal justice can sometimes be a bit challenging.
You just pass a kilo of heroin and you make a quick $10,000.
But a conversation with Manuel Camarena can certainly help explain the justice system. We recently met him in Texas at a bus stop in El Paso, where he wasn't afraid to share his story about the time he admits he made a serious mistake and trafficked drugs between the U.S. and Mexico.
They were my neighbors and they needed somebody with a driver's license, so they asked me if I wanted to work for them, and I did. And I was arrested here. This time I came here and I wanted to make a quick buck.
Manuel is not asking for your pity. He knows he broke the law, but he is sharing his story, hoping something with federal sentencing guidelines will change. You see, Manuel was arrested by federal agents and convicted of trafficking drugs in federal court, where there are mandatory minimum sentences, no federal parole, and where inmates serve at least 85% of their time. All of that is not the case in many local and state courts. Once Manuel pled guilty, he had to go to prison for 10 years, which he did. It didn't matter what he told the judge.
I served 10 years. I didn't have a drug record at all. Nothing. I have never got caught smoking weed or nothing except that time. But that was enough. That's the law.
Well, now there are questions about whether President Biden will take up criminal justice reform and change how thousands are sentenced each year. President Trump took action during his time in office that is reducing some sentences. But Biden pledged during the campaign to do more, even though when he was a senator, he helped pass many of the laws he now wants to roll back.
There are too many people in prison.
Nkechi Taifa is a criminal justice reform advocate and has participated in meetings with White House officials.
With respect to drugs, it's only the weight of drugs and the amount of drugs, and that dictates the time you serve. Doesn't matter what the judge thinks, doesn't matter what your individual characteristics are. Biden has said he will do away with it.
The biggest change she wants is the president to use his clemency power to reduce sentences for those serving time. He could impact thousands of lives with the stroke of a pen.
I'm very optimistic.
Thus far, though, the White House hasn't made any changes. Many prosecutors say you shouldn't reward illegal behavior, but Manuel says the status quo just doesn't make sense. Did his punishment truly fit the crime?
When I was in prison, my whole family died.
In El Paso, Texas, I'm Joe St. George.
Now to an update on a deadly shooting